Sometimes, life has a way of humbling even the most confident people. For Martell Holt, the once proud reality TV star who built his name as part of a power couple on Love and Marriage, Huntsville, his latest trip to the courthouse didn't just bring him bad news, it shook the very foundation of how the world sees him. This wasn't about television storylines or social media arguments anymore. This was real life. Real consequences. And the verdict he received against his ex-wife Melody left him not only embarrassed but cornered in a way he's never been before. For fans of the show, Martell's latest loss might have felt like just another chapter in his long, messy saga. But for him, it was much deeper than that. It was a brutal reminder that sometimes the damage you create can come back to haunt you, no matter how hard you fight to rewrite the narrative. And in this case, the court made it clear, the scales of justice were not tipping in his favor. But how did Martell, a man once celebrated for his ambition, charm, and family man image, fall so far into this storm of legal battles, personal betrayals, and shattered reputations? And why was this latest court decision such a devastating blow to him, not just as a father, but as a man desperate to hold on to the life he once had? To understand the full weight of this heartbreaking news, we need to rewind and revisit the road that led Martell here. Years ago, when Love and Marriage, Huntsville first premiered, Martell and Melody Holt seemed like the perfect couple. They were young, successful, attractive, and building businesses together. They weren't just partners in marriage, they were partners in dreams. They had 4 beautiful children, a thriving real estate company, and an image that many viewers admired. To the outside world, they were the blueprint of what a black power couple in Huntsville could look like. But behind the cameras, cracks were forming. Rumors about Martell's infidelity started to swirl, whispers that at first seemed like baseless gossip until Melody herself confirmed the truth. The betrayal wasn't a one-time mistake, it was a long-term affair. For Melody, it wasn't just about another woman. It was about years of lies, years of broken promises, and years of humiliation. And for the viewers, what was once a love story quickly turned into one of reality TV's most infamous downfalls. As the affair became public, Martell's image began to crumble. Fans who once saw him as a devoted husband now viewed him as selfish and unfaithful. Melody, on the other hand, started to shine in her independence. She walked away from her marriage and began focusing on her music, her businesses, and, most importantly, her children. She became the symbol of resilience, while Martell became the villain in his own story. But if anyone thought the drama would end with divorce papers, they were wrong. That was just the beginning. The battle shifted from broken vows to custody hearings, child support disputes, and endless arguments that spilled from the courtroom onto our television screens. Martell accused Melody of keeping him away from his kids. Melody accused Martell of harassment and control. Judges were forced to intervene time and time again, and each ruling seemed to push Martell further into a corner he couldn't escape. And now, after years of fighting, Martell has just received some of the worst news yet. The court has spoken, and it's a decision that could change everything for him. The recent hearing was supposed to be Martell's chance at redemption. After losing multiple rounds to Melody in the past, he walked into that courtroom hoping the judge would finally see his side of things. He wanted to prove that he deserved more time with his kids, more control over decisions, and more respect as their father. To him, this wasn't just about custody, it was about pride, about regaining some piece of the man he used to be. But the reality was harsher than he ever expected. Instead of walking away victorious, Martell walked away defeated. The judge ruled strongly in Melody's favor, leaving him not only with reduced influence but with stricter rules that he has to follow if he wants to avoid losing his children completely. The courtroom was silent when the decision was read, but those who were there say the look on Martell's face told the entire story. His confidence was gone. His shoulders slumped. And for once, the man who always had something to say, whether on television, in interviews, or on Instagram, had no words. What nobody expected was that the judge didn't just rule against him, the court also issued warnings. Martell was told that any further violations of boundaries, any attempts to go against the court's orders, could result in serious consequences, including suspension of visitation rights. For a man who has already been struggling to keep his reputation intact, this was a devastating blow. For Melody, however, this moment was about protection. She's been open for years about wanting to shield her children from unnecessary drama, from toxic cycles, and from a home environment that feels unstable. Each court victory for her has been another step toward peace of mind. Another sign that her years of endurance and courage weren't in vain. And that's exactly why this latest ruling cut Martell so deeply. It wasn't just that he lost, it was that Melody once again proved she had the upper hand. For a man who built his identity on control, power, and being the head of the household, that realization is crushing. But the emotional impact goes beyond Martell himself. His children are caught in the middle, their futures shaped not by what they see on television, but by the decisions made in quiet courtrooms. They've watched their parents fight for years, not just with words but with legal filings and bitter accusations. And while Melody may have won this battle, the scars left behind will not disappear overnight. For Martell, the fallout from this terrible news is bigger than just parenting schedules. It's about his public image, his career, and his mental state. Reality TV thrives on drama, but when the cameras stop rolling, the real-world consequences don't go away. He is now a father with a domestic violence conviction on his record, mounting legal costs, and a reputation that is steadily crumbling. And unless he makes a dramatic change, his role in his children's lives could shrink even more. But here's the twist that makes this story even more heartbreaking. Martell isn't just losing in court, he's losing in life. Business deals have slowed. Opportunities are drying up. And the same audience that once tuned in to watch his rise is now watching his fall with sharp criticism. Social media doesn't forget. Every mistake, every outburst, every bitter post about Melody is replayed and dissected. And now, with this latest ruling, the internet has only one narrative: Martell is losing, while Melody is winning. And maybe that's the hardest pill for him to swallow. Not just that he lost in court, but that the world saw it happen. That his ex-wife, the woman he once underestimated, continues to rise while he continues to fall. This terrible news from the court is more than just a headline, it's a moment of reckoning. A reminder that no matter how far you try to run from your past, it always has a way of catching up. And for Martell Holt, the question now isn't whether he can win against Melody. It's whether he can save himself before it's too late. Because at the end of the day, court battles end, shows eventually get cancelled, and social media moves on. But family? Children? Reputation? Those are things you can't easily replace once they're gone. And unless Martell makes peace with the reality he's facing, he may find himself losing the very things he once claimed mattered the most. What makes this moment so powerful isn't just the court's decision, it's what it represents. For years, Martell Holt has been chasing an image. The image of the successful businessman. The image of the devoted father. The image of the man who could control the narrative both on camera and off. But time and time again, reality has stripped away that mask, revealing a truth he can no longer run from. This ruling wasn't just about visitation schedules or custody terms. It was about accountability. It was the court saying, your actions have consequences. For Martell, who has fought so hard to spin every loss into a temporary setback, this decision is different. This is permanent. It changes how he parents. It changes how the world sees him. And perhaps most painfully, it changes how his children will remember these years when they grow old enough to look back. But here's where the story takes a heartbreaking turn. In trying so hard to fight Melody, Martell may have ended up fighting himself. Every angry outburst, every attempt to undermine her, every desperate move to regain power, it only dug the hole deeper. What he wanted most, which was to be seen as a strong father and protector, now feels further away than ever. And ironically, the woman he tried to silence, the woman he once betrayed, has become the symbol of strength he cannot match. For Melody, this decision is not about gloating. It's not about winning a trophy in court. It's about creating peace, protecting her children, and finally closing a painful chapter in her life. After years of humiliation and tears, she has emerged not only as the victor but as the example of what resilience looks like. The contrast between them is impossible to ignore. And yet, for all the victories and losses, one question still hangs heavy in the air: what happens next? Will Martell continue down this path of bitterness, court battles, and public meltdowns? Or will he finally realize that the only way forward is not through fighting Melody, but through facing himself? Because until he accepts responsibility not just in words but in actions, every new ruling, every new scandal, every new headline will only remind him of what he has lost. The cameras may love the drama, but real life isn't scripted. Real life is children growing up with memories of parents at war. Real life is the pain of broken trust, the loneliness of sitting in a courtroom when the verdict doesn't go your way. Real life is the quiet moment after the judge leaves, when you realize that no amount of charm or excuses can erase the truth. And that's where Martell Holt finds himself today. Not as the confident star of Love and Marriage, Huntsville. Not as the businessman who once held everything in his hands. But as a man forced to face the consequences of his own choices. The court has spoken. Melody has found her strength. And Martell? He is left with a decision: either continue to fight battles he cannot win, or finally take the hard road of growth, humility, and change. Because in the end, this isn't just a story about courtrooms and custody. It's a story about redemption or the lack of it. And whether Martell Holt ever finds that redemption remains the question that will keep everyone watching.